It was hilly, where Manzanar was just really flat sand for acres and acres.
While you were there in Idaho, you and Sam decided to get married. So how did you do that? What did you do to get married?
We got a permit at the administration building and took a bus to Twin Falls because the bus came often to camp.
And so you got a 1 day, 2 day permit?
2 days.
2 days. And you took the bus into Twin Falls. What happened in Twin Falls?
Well, we were up and down the street looking for a minister.
So you went into the church and they said they would marry you. And then what happened after you got married? Did you stay the night there?
Yeah, we went to have dinner. Chicken dinner, fried chicken. What a treat.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good compared to camp food. Oh, golly.
Nearing the end of the war, there was a meeting on the island of a number of people that went, and there were people who said they didn't want any Japanese back on the island. Do you know anything about that meeting? Can you tell me?
I heard some people went there, but it was nothing.
You ever feel racial prejudice now? Do you feel any?
No, I don't. If there is, they don't show it, so, you know.
So we built the memorial. You've certainly worked hard on that, and a lot of other islanders worked hard, and people elsewhere. Has that helped to tell the story, the memorial?
I think so. It's amazing, all the people that go down there and look, which is great, because every time we go down there, we see people down there.
And so the purpose is so people won't forget that United States citizens were taken away and held without their due rights.
Right.
The people that come to the memorial and leave messages and leave origami, does that make you feel good? Does that impress you?
Yeah.
Surprise you at all? Or?
Yeah, it makes me feel good to think that people probably are thinking positively. And just to see the memorial itself, it says a lot without anybody saying anything.
Did this whole process of internment, did it change your views on life, or did you come away from it unhappy or disgruntled or anti-American or anything, or just, did you look at it as just a facet of your life?
I say, try to love everybody. Be happy. Have joy in your heart.
These people were American citizens, and very few of them are still living today. But the story needs to be told, and needs to be retold and told once again after that. This must never happen again, ever. Citizens, all of us in America, have our rights, and these people saw their rights denied for a period of years because of the insecurity of racial backgrounds. This exclusion memorial is one of my favorite places. Not an easy story to tell, but one that needs to be told.
Hi, Senators. I'm Anshu Koparapu, a junior at Eastlake High School in Sammamish, Washington. Washington has had universal background checks for firearm purchases in place since 2014. How do you evaluate their effectiveness in improving public safety?
Attorney General. After that, we will open it up to some questions from you. If you would like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. And when I call on you, please state your name and your outlet, and then go ahead with your question. And we do ask that you try to keep it on topic. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to our first speaker, Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Again, my name is Dan Rayfield, Oregon's Attorney General. For decades, the federal government and the FTC have been really an incredible partner in enforcing our antitrust laws, our anti-competitive laws. And we've seen an incredible shift over the past year and a half with that really important role. Just look at numbers alone, $2.3 trillion of mergers happened last year. That is a 49% increase over 2024. You have seen the federal government pull back from the enforcement of these, even firing top administrators who have been in charge and leading the charge, frankly, when it comes to enforcing our anti-competitive laws. And then probably one of the most stark contrasts we've seen with any president is the words that come out of his very own mouth, where he seems to be prioritizing backroom deals and political calculations rather than enforcing the laws that are meant to protect all of us as consumers. And I think all of us have to ask this question: why does this matter to us? It matters because when you go into the grocery store and you're looking at the prices of the things that you buy, if you do not enforce these laws, these prices will go up. It matters when you get your paycheck every single month in your community, when you have less competition, bargaining power with your employers, when there's a lack of multiple employers, that impacts how your paychecks turn up in your bank every single month. And then impacts on the choices. When you go into that grocery store and you see 2 boxes of cereal instead of 4 boxes of cereal. This is what it means to not enforce our laws here in this country. And that's why these laws have been so important. And that's why they've been prioritized for administration after administration. So we as Democratic attorneys general, frankly, even Republican attorneys general, are forced into this unique point in time about what are we going to do if we care about these laws. And we've had very important conversations among our colleagues to how are we going to fill this vacuum. And that's really what this press conference is about today, is that first step forward. And that first step forward is increasing the amount of resources that we have in our offices to fill the the backlog or the backfill that is going on with the federal government. It also means reevaluating the laws that we have in our states. So here in Oregon, we are going to be going to the Oregon legislature, the emergency board, seeking 16 FTE to participate and be a partner with all of the AG's offices moving forward for the enforcement of these incredibly important laws. And I think it's really important to note that not one office can do this alone. Not one of these mergers impacts each state the same way. And so it is important that we partner together in the enforcement of these laws. And that's what you see here today. And so I'm incredibly proud to be joined by some amazing partners from the AGs from different states. And I will go ahead and turn it over to AG Rob Bonta from California.
Thank you, AG Rayfield, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm happy to be here with my colleagues to talk about the importance of our ongoing antitrust enforcement work. And I know that sometimes when people hear antitrust, their eyes glaze over and they start thinking about what they're going to have for dinner. But I promise we're not just a bunch of attorneys here to bore you with legal jargon. Bottom line is antitrust enforcement, as AG Rayfield mentioned, is about affordability. It's about how much it costs to put dinner on the table, to bring your kids to their first concert, to watch local news and your favorite sports team in the playoffs. And when we go after corporations that monopolize markets, collude to fix prices, or merge to knock out competition, we're fighting for everyday people, for everyday Americans, for your budget, your bills, your pocketbook. Robust antitrust enforcement protects businesses that follow the law, protects working families who deserve to pay fair prices, and protects our economy. If you need proof that antitrust enforcement works, just look at California. California is the 4th largest economy in the world, and we have some of the strongest antitrust and consumer protection enforcement anywhere in the country, often working alongside my colleagues here. That's no accident. Antitrust enforcement is good for the economy, good for consumers, good for businesses that play by the rules. Until recently, this work has often been a shared effort between the states and the federal administration. Sometimes, like with the settlement against AgriStats that we reached last week, it still is. But more and more, President Trump and his administration seem to have abandoned the fight for a free and fair market and abdicated their role to hold corporations accountable to the law. State AGs have been left with no choice but to step up to the plate and be ready to go. And we are. Importantly, a number of our antitrust cases have been led by a bipartisan coalition of AGs, including the recent wins in our cases against Live Nation and Ticketmaster and broadcast giants Nexstar and Tegna. That just goes to show that this work isn't and shouldn't be partisan. Fighting for affordability for all Americans should be just plain American, regardless of your state or your side of the aisle. Now, more than ever, as we tackle an affordability crisis, and too often do it without the federal government, it's critical that all of our states invest in this work so that together we have the resources we need to continue to stand as a united front, to stand up for consumers across the nation, safeguard competition, and tackle the affordability crisis. I'm grateful that Governor Newsom and the California legislature support and value this work and the importance of our multi-state coalition. Our cases are so much stronger when we pool our resources and share the workload. In particular, I also want to shout out our colleague, Colorado AG Phil Weiser, who isn't here today, but who is a formidable champion of this work, very passionate about antitrust work. Finally, before I wrap it up, I'd be remiss not to express my deep appreciation and gratitude for the members of California DOJ's antitrust law section who put so much of their hearts, their souls, and their time into these cases, true public servants, each and every one of them. With that, please allow me to pass the Zoom microphone to Washington Attorney General Nick Brown.
Thank you, Rob, and good morning, good afternoon, and appreciate everyone joining us today to talk about this incredibly important topic. As has been highlighted, states are the joint enforcers of federal antitrust laws, along with the federal government. And in the past, the feds were the most visible enforcer of this work, mainly because they have more resources. And in normal times, the FTC and the DOJ have hundreds of lawyers working on antitrust cases to keep Washingtonians and people in every state safe from the abuses of this practice. But now the federal government has made our antitrust laws fragile, and antitrust law enforcement is truly in peril. We've seen them drop cases and make inadequate settlements that don't protect consumers. And in some cases, there have been reports that insiders close to the administration have engaged in corrupt dealings to get these cases dropped. We're seeing giant corporations who are more concerned with profits than the people that they are supposed to be serving. And they know that if they have friends in the administration, their mergers are more likely to get waved through. As a result, we're going to see more monopolies, less choice, less competition. And without competition, these monopolies will be able to jack up prices on consumers as much as they want, hurting everyday Americans who are already struggling with an affordability crisis across the country. That is why it is so important that our states are stepping up and working together and taking on a more aggressive role in antitrust enforcement. In Washington, we're well positioned for this role. We've been working on building up our antitrust capacity for years. 20 years ago, we only had a few attorneys working in our antitrust division. Today, we've got about 15. We're now at the point where we can bring more antitrust cases on our own, but we need more resources, we need more support, and we need more collaboration across the states. Some of my colleagues have highlighted how important this work, and we've seen a lot of work on a bipartisan basis recently to increase this enforcement priority. We worked on collaboratively with Live Nation and the Ticketmaster lawsuit, and we did that work together because DOJ kept us out of the loop. They announced that they had settled the case without keeping all of the states abreast about what they were doing on, and we had to make sure that we were keeping that work pushing forward. And so last month, Washington State and other AGs won a landmark verdict for consumers after the federal government reached a settlement that was truly inadequate. And that required collaboration from the folks that you see here and our colleagues across the country. We're continuing to keep our focus on state enforcement. Washington has a case going on now against RealPage, when we make sure that we can address some of the housing and affordability crisis, and we continue to look for ways to spread our enforcement. But all of our states need to step up this work. We need more resources to do the work because of what we're seeing in the absence of the federal government. Because we're going to continue to work to protect consumers from our anti-competitive conduct that we're seeing and safeguarding competition. We're going to enforce our state laws, and we're going to work with colleagues across the states. But there's going to be a lot more to do in this space. But I'm really just proud to be here. I want to thank AG Rayfield for organizing this important conversation and look forward to working with other folks here and our colleagues across the country in the months ahead. And I would love to pass the Zoom mic to my colleague in Nevada, Aaron Ford.
Thanks so much, General Brown. Great to be on the screen with you and my other colleagues as well. Look, everybody, here in Nevada, antitrust enforcement, it isn't abstract. It's about real, everyday costs that families face. As a kid, I probably didn't know what the word affordability meant, but I do know that my parents couldn't always afford food. And that's partially what antitrust is about. It's about what Nevadans pay for groceries. That's the reason why, for example, several of my colleagues and I objected to the merger of Kroger and Albertsons on antitrust grounds, understanding the importance of the pricing of food in that regard. But it's also about concert tickets, prescription drugs, and housing. When markets are distorted, our residents feel it immediately, and that's what drives our work. You see that clearly in cases we're pursuing. Nevada joined the multi-state action involving Apple, for example, because we are concerned about conduct that limits consumer choice and locks people into ecosystems that are difficult to leave. And it's not just about technology. It's also about creating access for consumers to make meaningful choices in the marketplace. We are also continuing litigation involving Amazon, where the focus is on the practices that can exclude competition and competitors and manipulate pricing. For Nevadans, that translates into fewer options and into higher costs over time. I also want to highlight, as you've heard several times already, the lawsuit against Live Nation and Ticketmaster, where we were proud to partner with Letitia James, who led this effort, and several other of our colleagues in a state like Nevada here, where live entertainment is central to our economy. Maintaining competition is especially important. When competition breaks down, consumers pay more for a less satisfactory experience, and the market can stagnate. Ensuring that fair pricing and transparency is critical, not just for our residents, but for the millions of visitors who come to Nevada each year. We're also actively engaged in litigation against generic drug manufacturers for price fixing. That work is about lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Something that directly impacts Nevada families, especially our seniors and those managing chronic conditions. Across all of these cases, our priorities are consistent. Keep prices competitive, improve the consumer experience, and protect Nevada jobs. When we evaluate potential antitrust violations, we're looking at both sides of the equation. How does conduct affect consumers, and how is it impacting workers and local economies? At the same time, as federal actions become less predictable, states are taking on a larger role in enforcement, and Nevada is no different. Our Consumer Protection Bureau has conducted investigations, brought in expert resources, and even carried cases forward independently as we saw fit to address the specific needs of our state. These cases tend to be resource intensive, but they're also essential. All of us AGs being here today is a clear showing that states aren't waiting on the sidelines. We're stepping up, we're working together, and we're using every tool available to us to protect consumers and to promote fair competition. It also reflects something important. Protecting competitive markets isn't a partisan issue. It's about making sure that families can afford essentials. Workers have opportunities, and businesses can compete on a level playing field. Whether we're taking on big tech, challenging unfair pricing practices, or holding monopolies accountable, our message is simple. No company is above the law. And we're going to continue to collaborate across state lines, share resources, and pursue these cases wherever the facts and the law lead us. And I thank you for joining us today, and want to tender the mic to my colleague, Letitia James from New York.
Thank you, AG Ford. I want to thank my fellow attorneys general for their continued partnership in this critical fight. Across the country, families are feeling the squeeze of a brutal economy. The cost of housing, healthcare, entertainment, news, and everyday necessities keeps going up. And too often, these costs are not the result of fair competition or better service. They are the result of powerful corporations using their size and influence to shut out competitors, corner markets, and force consumers to pay more. As federal antitrust enforcement steps back, state attorneys general are stepping up. We are enforcing the law. We are protecting consumers. Just last month, my office and a bipartisan coalition of states won a major victory against Live Nation and Ticketmaster after a jury found that they illegally maintain a monopoly. For far too long, fans, artists, and venues were forced to pay the price, while Live Nation and Ticketmaster controlled nearly every corner of the live entertainment industry. We rejected a weak settlement, and we kept fighting, because fans deserve real accountability. We also recently won a court order halting the Nexstar-Tegna merger, which would have created the largest broadcast station group in the country, controlling more than 250 local TV stations and reaching 80% of the country. We also sued Zillow and Redfin for an illegal scheme to stop competing in the online apartment rental advertising market. And just last week, a New York court denied Zillow and Redfin's attempt to get that case thrown out. We won a major case against Google for monopolies in digital advertising, where Google's conduct harmed publishers, advertisers, small businesses, and consumers who rely on a free and open internet. We secured more than $2.5 million from New York City bus tour companies that colluded to limit competition and reduce service for consumers. We secured a settlement with the NCAA to end anti-competitive rules that prevented student athletes from pursuing name, image, and likeness opportunities before committing to a school. And we took action against United Health and Amadeus to protect access to home health and hospice care in Western New York. Because when healthcare markets are dominated by a few powerful players, vulnerable patients can face higher prices and fewer choices. These cases are different in subject matter, but they are united by a simple principle. Fair competition protects people. And state attorneys general will not allow corporations to rig markets, silent competitors, or use monopoly power to take advantage of the public. And so I am so proud to stand with my fellow attorneys general in this fight. And we will keep using every tool we have to protect competition, defend consumers, and hold powerful corporations accountable. I want to thank Attorney General Rayfield for bringing us together. And I want to thank you all again for joining us today. And now I turn it back over to Jenny.
All right. Thank you so much, Attorney General James, and to all of the attorneys general on here today. We do want to open it up to some questions now from some of the reporters on here. First question is coming from Matthew Keys.
Thanks for taking my question. Matt Keys here with the desk.net. Am I coming through okay?
Yep, we hear you.
Perfect. I have a two-parter. I'll ask my first one quickly, and then if we can get to the second one, if we have time, I'll ask that one. This is specifically for Attorney General Bonta, but anyone feel free to chime in. Specific to the Nexstar-Tegna antitrust case, which is largely predicated on the idea that it will concentrate too much power with the broadcasters, it'll raise cable and satellite fees, it'll lead to layoffs of journalists. Those were things that were already happening prior to the merger, and it seems like no matter how the lawsuit shakes out, that will continue to happen, whether they're separate entities or a combined entity. So I'm wondering what the end game is really for that lawsuit. Is there some kind of concession that the broadcasters can make to avoid a trial, or is there something specifically that you're seeking in unwinding that deal? Is that something you can address?
Sure, and multiple of the states that are on this call are in that case. That's a multi-state case. Also bipartisan. I'll make sure I flag Kansas and Indiana joined recently. So another example of states stepping up for consumers and affordability when the federal government has abdicated its role. The federal government ushered this deal through, and it is presumptively unlawful. The merger is, and so what we're looking for is a block of the merger. That's what we've asked for, and all the things you said will occur if this merger goes forward. There will be less viewpoints, fewer jobs, higher prices for consumers, and just on the data with respect to what this merger means in terms of consolidation in certain markets and across the country, it's already permissibly unlawful, and so that's why it's been blocked through a preliminary injunction. The Nexstar Tegna are both appealing that order. I do not think they will prevail based on the facts and the law, but it's their right to try. We want a block of the merger, and regardless of whether there is, for other reasons outside of antitrust law, fewer choices or higher prices or less viewpoints, absolutely does not mean that it's okay to have it here. It's not. It's unlawful. And so this is a really strong case. We're proud of where we've come already in a short period of time to protect consumers, make sure that their satellite and cable prices aren't unlawfully hiked, that they have access to different perspectives and views with the local news, and that we protect jobs in local TV stations so that those journalists can share their views to the people that they're serving.
I appreciate that. Attorney General Ford, in your opening remarks, you said that you're willing to take on the big tech industry. The broadcasters have justified the need to consolidate based on the pressures they face from big streaming services like Netflix and Prime Video, and they'd be willing to argue that you're actually doing them a favor by participating in this antitrust case. And I'm wondering if you'd mind responding to that.
Well, I don't know if I will respond specifically to whether I'm doing them a favor or not. What we will say is that we continue to be continue to consider whether these types of mergers are going to decrease competition and provide consumers less opportunity. If it inures to the benefit of others, then that's a tangential benefit. But our primary focus as attorneys general is to look at the antitrust laws and to look at the particular instances of requested mergers and whatnot, and ascertain whether, again, it is going to undermine competition and reduce choices for consumers. That's what we're doing in this particular litigation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, up next we want to get to Jeff Bliss.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you. Jeff Bliss from the Capitol Forum. Thanks so much. I was just wondering if AG Bonta and other attorney generals on the call who are focusing on the Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery merger could give us an update on where that review is, perhaps some of your concerns or issues with the merger, and when you expect you'll make a decision on whether to sue or to let it or to clear it. Thank you.
Sure, maybe I can start. I don't think I'm breaking any news here. This is what I've said before. We are looking, we are investigating the proposed merger. There are red flags everywhere for us. We're looking at things like higher prices, lower wages, fewer jobs, less quality, less choice, less competition. You know, the things that you look at when you're looking at an antitrust case and a proposed merger. And we have a lot of concerns. This is not a done deal. It has not cleared regulatory scrutiny, and we're looking. And other AGs are looking as well. And so we have time to make a decision. We'll make a decision when it's timely, when we are able to reserve our rights, and if we decide to move forward, challenge the merger. If we decide that we're not going to challenge the merger, then you'll learn about that at the appropriate time as well. But we're watching everything that happens in the case or in the proposed merger, including the attempts to clear regulatory scrutiny in Europe, the recent shareholder vote. All of our rights are reserved. We still have time, and we're still in our investigation phase. And when we're ready to take an action, either alone or collectively or not at all, you'll hear about it.
Thank you.
Okay, we only have time for like 2 more questions. Let's go with Josh Sisko. Josh, if you can unmute yourself.
Sorry. This is Josh with Bloomberg News. You guys have been talking a lot about the need for more resources. And I'm wondering if you could sort of quantify, these cases can be pretty expensive, and I'm wondering if you guys can quantify what you need. I know you're seeking attorney's fees in the Kroger Albertsons case, and you'll most likely be seeking attorney's fees in the Google cases. Can you say anything about what you will be asking for, and if you can sort of put any kind of numbers on the costs of these cases and what you guys are going to be looking for going forward in terms of budget increases.
Yeah, and maybe I could just start off by saying I think each state's going to be a little bit different in terms of the resources that they're looking at and also looking at their existing laws. So I think that is part of what you're seeing here today, which is a collaboration amongst all the attorneys general, very much like how we're doing our federal work, where it is a team effort to fill the void that's going on in the federal government right now. So in Oregon, for us specifically, what it means is we need more bodies helping doing this work to be a part of this national team to enforce these laws. In a lot of these different cases, there's different fee agreements or fee sharing agreements, and those things are considered in each case that you're taking on. Here in Oregon, what I want to be able to do is when we see a case that's important to Oregonians, we have to and must be able to participate, be able to participate when it comes to the cost, be able to participate when it comes to the bodies needed to move the litigation forward to make sure that the costs are affordable for folks. So that's how we're approaching it. I know each state's is a little bit different, but I'm happy to turn it over to the other attorneys general and talk about their approach.
I think the bottom line is that when it comes to antitrust, what we're seeking is behavioral and structural change. That's what's really critical, because each case is different and each office is different. Right now, I have 14 full-time employees dedicated to antitrust cases. But you also, I'm sure you noticed that with regards to Live Nation, we were able to retain outside counsel. So it all really depends upon the matter, and all depends upon the structure of the case and what we are seeking. I don't think any of us can put a number to what we are seeking collectively, but I can say collectively what we are seeking when it comes to each and individual matter is structural and behavioral change.
I might also add that antitrust cases are uniquely resource intensive and expensive. Sort of a general rule of thumb is it takes 20 attorneys to bring an antitrust case, and it costs $20 million. So that's a lot, and especially when the federal government, who has the most resources of any government when it comes to antitrust enforcement, is not participating the way they have, whether it be the FTC or the US DOJ. So that burden falls on us collectively as AGs. That means more of our attorneys. It means more of our resources. Part of that $20 million includes hiring experts, economists and others to opine about the market and the impact of the proposed merger or other action on that market. So these are very expensive cases, and we need more money in California. We are already blessed with a relatively robust team, all things considered, but given the retreat by the United States federal government from this space means we need to do more. And so I think all of us need more resources. What that exact amount is, I don't think any of us are going to have a specific number for you today, but we need more resources to stand up for consumers across the country.
Okay. We have time for one more question. We'll take that from Dave Michaels.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. This is Dave Michaels. I'm at the Wall Street Journal. In the Nexstar case, the parties kind of jumped the gun that you guys were trying to challenge it, but they announced that they were closing before you had been able to file your lawsuit seeking an injunction. And it kind of points out that as the states, you don't have the same authorities that the feds have. You don't have this pre-merger notification waiting period that holds up companies from closing their deals until the feds have done their full merger review. So given that you don't have that sort of luxury, and it seems like you're having to sort of decide which mergers to challenge a little bit on the fly. I mean, could you talk about what your pipeline looks like, kind of what your priorities are when it comes to the kinds of mergers that you might want to block, and how you're going to sort of systematically determine which matters, since you don't have that HSR authority that the feds have.
So can I just say that collectively we review each and every case based on the facts and based on the evidence and based on the law. But state attorneys general, we get meaningful results when we work together to enforce the law. And with respect to Nexstar and Tegna, we were able to actually stop the process of them combining their assets. And that's where we are at this moment in time. Nexstar and Tegna are the largest owners of local TV stations in the country. And this merger would have created a single company that owns over 250 stations. In the state of New York, it would have impacted the stations in Buffalo. And so I think it's important that individuals understand that collectively, notwithstanding the fact that the federal government has stepped back, it's state attorneys general who are stepping up, and we are more powerful when we work collectively together.
And I might add, in all these cases, we are sort of monitoring the actions of the parties of interest, like Nexstar, Tegna, and we had a sense that they were going to try to move quickly, and maybe even move quickly in conjunction with the federal government. And we filed our case timely. We brought a injunction after they attempted to close, but we put our stake in the ground and had our case filed. DirecTV, also an impacted private entity here, they filed a preliminary injunction, and so they were also, they had standing and they had an ability to take action to enforce antitrust laws. So the bottom line is, we got an injunction, and we in California will be getting additional pre-merger notification starting January 1st, 2027. That hasn't kicked in yet, but I think you're right to highlight that could be helpful under certain circumstances.
I'll just say from Nevada's perspective, there was an effort in 2025 by Senator James Orenshaw to pass the Uniform Antitrust Pre-Merger Notification Act. It did fail, but it is something that clearly the state of Nevada is interested in strengthening from our perspective. But we do have, kind of many pre-notification statutes in certain areas. Healthcare, for example, 30 days prior to a merger, my office is able to receive information that allows us to make some type of determination one way or the other. More specifically, again, we would be interested in pursuing what James Orenshaw did in 2025, trying to expand our pre-notification opportunities here in these types of arenas.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you to all the attorneys general for joining us and for their time. For the reporters on here, if anyone needs a copy of this, we can send you a file later today. So feel free to reach out to our office. And thanks again, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, colleagues. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.